Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into one of the most heartbreaking stories in all of literature, the tragic downfall of Gretchen from Goethe's masterpiece, Faust. At its heart, Faust is a real moral battleground. The play just puts the damage people do to each other right under the microscope, weighing things like guilt and innocence. And honestly, no character's story tips those scales more towards tragedy than Gretchen's. So you have to ask yourself, how does a story that kicks off with love end up becoming a case study in pure cruelty? Let's trace the tragic downfall of this young woman whose life is just completely destroyed by one man's selfish ambition and, of course, his pact with a demon. So, before Faust ever even enters her life, we're introduced to Gretchen as the very picture of innocence, piety, and just a simple, good life. I mean, the way she's described is all about purity and naivete. Think of her as a total blank canvas. And this is so important because the tragedy isn't just about what happens to her, but what's lost. Her innocence is the very thing that makes her vulnerable, chaining her to Faust's dark destiny before she even has a clue what's going on. And then her entire life changes forever after a chance encounter. But here's the thing, it wasn't fate. No, this was completely orchestrated by Faust's demonic sidekick, Mephistopheles. Yeah, this is no simple love story. This is a setup. Faust, who's all hopped up on a witch's potion, is just consumed by this manufactured desire. And with the devil himself, Mephistopheles, playing matchmaker, of course Gretchen falls head over heels in love. But this whole romance is cursed from the very beginning, and it leads to a consequence that, back then, was basically a social death sentence: getting pregnant while unmarried. And this is the exact moment where everything just begins to completely unravel. The pregnancy isn't just one problem. No, it's the very first domino in a horrifying chain of tragedies that will systematically destroy every single part of Gretchen's life. So first, violence crashes into her life. Her brother, Valentine, he tries to defend the family's honor. And what happens? He's killed by Faust. Now, with her family's protector gone, the community closes in. The gossip, the scandal, it's just relentless. She is totally and completely alone, shunned by the very people she grew up with. You can almost feel her world just shrinking, closing in on her. And you're probably wondering, where is Faust while Gretchen's world is collapsing? Well, he's off on a completely different journey, chasing knowledge and experience. And that contrast really drives home one of the play's most painful themes: the tragic inability, or maybe the unwillingness, of one person to truly understand the suffering they've caused. Pushed to the absolute brink by grief, public shame, and just utter desperation, Gretchen does something final, something unthinkable. Driven to madness by it all, she commits the unthinkable. She kills her newborn child. This act of infanticide, which is a direct result of all the pressures she's under, it seals her fate on earth. She's arrested, she confesses, and she's condemned to death. And this is it, the final stage of her earthly suffering. In a cold prison cell, her mind just shatters. The text describes her as having gone mad, completely haunted by what she's done and what's been done to her. This isn't just being in prison, it's a complete psychological collapse while she waits to die. But then, right before her execution, Faust and Mephistopheles show up in her cell. They've got a plan to rescue her, offering one last chance at freedom. So Faust offers her a get-out-of-jail-free card, an escape, a new life. But just look at her choice here. In this final moment, she finds a whole new kind of strength. She refuses. She accepts her punishment, and seeing the pure evil of Mephistopheles, she completely rejects their help. She chooses to face God's judgment rather than be saved by the devil. And in her final moments in the play, just as Faust and Mephistopheles vanish, a voice from heaven declares, she is saved. So, despite being condemned on earth, she is granted redemption through God's grace. And that's the absolute gut-wrenching paradox of her story. She finds salvation for her soul, but only after her life has been completely and utterly destroyed by human cruelty. It's just a shocking reminder of the play's moral world, where divine mercy and the absolute worst of human injustice can exist side by side. And so, Gretchen's tragedy leaves us with this heavy, really difficult question. It forces us to try and weigh the cost of one man's endless ambition against the complete destruction of an innocent person's life. I mean, what is the true meaning of salvation when it comes at such a terrible, terrible price?